Today's rant relates to news that so far this year over 3,000 people were killed in drug-related wars going on the border between Mexico and the United States. And I know we all laughed when Nancy Reagan was saying, just say no to drugs. And it's really not too funny about um, the real collateral damage, I guess, from the demand for drugs in the United States. Now I know all the comedians laugh about getting high, and I know we make actually heroes out of people like Charlie Sheen. But the bottom line is that we are paying people to stop drugs from coming into this country. They're being killed. You have the people in Mexico who are trying to stop the flow, and they are the mortality rate on those people who are actually putting their asses on the line to stop drugs from coming in and going to people like some of you, so you can get high, get your cheap thrill. It's very sad. You see interviews with these people who know when they take this job as a police officer, undercover, they know they're dead. You have judges who are trying to convict these people over in Mexico and Colombia. They know they're dead by taking this job, and yet they have the courage and resolve to do that. And how anybody can laugh at drugs is really a real sad statement. I know when Obama was asked about the legalization of drugs, everybody got a little excited over that concept. And on one level, I could care less what people do, as long as they're not driving a car and killing my family members when they're high on either, drugs or booze. But right now, of course, a lot of them are on legalized prescriptions that radically hinders their ability to function. That's a whole nother issue of the pharmaceutical companies, and how if they had their way, everybody would be medicated for something or another. And it's very interesting that the medical profession, I remember many years ago, there was a doctor on the radio show WOR or WABC, who was talking about how we have to educate our children not to do drugs. And so I called up the show and I said, well, considering that doctors are the most educated people and know full well, the adverse effects of drugs, how come they're one of the highest users of drugs in any profession in the United States? And he said, well, that's true, but So we have a society that's really full of drugs. We have those border guards who shot that drug dealer in the butt after pulling over his van with, I think, about $500,000 worth of pot. And those guys were being sent up, and I mean, what should I say? The acceptance of bringing drugs in this country goes up to the highest levels. And I'm sure there are people who are not paying them off, who are coming down and getting capturing the drugs of the competition that aren't playing the game and paying off the people. But when George Bush was looked at, discussed when they mentioned these people using their vacations to protect the borders, let me tell you, the drugs coming across the border from Mexico had totally dried up. And I'm sure George and his buddies were getting phone calls like, what's going on here? We're paying good money to get this stuff in, and it's not coming in. That's a strong statement to say, but you could just tell by the look on George Bush's face that he was pissed. And then when they were able to get those guards, boy, they threw everything into him. Gonzalez and Bush, and I forget who the district attorney was down there, or whatever he was, attorney general. Well, that was Gonzalez. But anyhow, I mean, they came down on these guys to the point where they were going to get a new trial. And the only reason why Bush gave them clemency of any type was the fact that this new trial probably would have exposed everything about George Bush and Gonzales and the other Sutton down there. They would have been in jail. So I don't think George Bush was doing this under the graces of his good heart. He was just protecting his rump, and no one will say a damn thing about this thing. Anyhow, I'm just saying, look, if you want to get high, and you know, some of these people grow their own crap, and as long as you don't get minors into the act there, I mean, and, you know, you can smoke your brains out, stay off the road, go in your cabin out in the woods, and you know, toke up and you know, turn on and burn out if you like. That's I guess you're right. In fact, I think that they should actually sell permits so people can grow their own, and then if they violate the rules on growing your own and how much, then they come down with a heavy hand and really sock it to you. The whole thing on drugs, though, is that they're not plea bargaining to the point where instead of just saying no, they should say, you better know who you're buying from, because if you ever get caught, and if you can't turn them in, you're going to go up for some serious time. You know, maybe it should be like, get to know your drug pusher, get to know where he lives, so you can finger him if you get caught. And believe me, if in fact that was the policy in the United States, it would go right up the chain, and we'd find out exactly who was really doing this. But it doesn't do it. In Towanda, they had some adult giving cocaine to minors, and they mailed him a summons to appear in court. Mailed him. They didn't come down and grab his ass and throw him in jail. No, they mailed him a summons, like it was like his dog was overdue for a license, a dog license or something. This is what you have going on, and I'm not going to be judgmental, because people are going to do what they're going to do. But when you do it, just remember, when you're buying those drugs, you're killing people. You understand? You're killing people just for your high. Now, if you're proud of that, fine. And you know, if you're hooked on something, or that's what you have to do, I guess that's what you have to do. But don't laugh it off. Just realize that when you are encouraging the importation of drugs, and by buying this from people, you are encouraging the importation of drugs, that there are people dying on both sides of the borders. We're getting the people to overdose and all that and kill other people while they're high. Forgetting all that. Just the process of trying to restrict the importation in the United States is causing deaths, and deaths of some very, very courageous people who have families, who have loved ones, and who are killed, and I'm sure not in a very humane way. That the way they knock off these people who are trying to inhibit the flow of drugs is not very nice. And so I wanted to talk about that, because I know every time I see a comedy show, all they talk about is getting high, and how much fun, and you know how cool it is. And once again, our media, or our government is more worried about football players and stuff doing steroids than they are of the people who are on the silver screen getting caught with drugs and all kinds of abuse of different types of substances. And there's no drug test for these actors and actresses. They don't drug test the athletes. Maybe they're afraid that the games might go down the way they want them to go. They're not as predictable maybe if a guy's on drugs, and maybe that's why everybody's pissed off about the sports people, that the odds makers are getting burned once in a while. So that's about my big rant for today. The snow is starting to melt again. Spring can't be that far away, and God bless those people who are trying to keep drugs away from our kids. And hopefully God will have a way to deal with those people who give drugs to our kids. And that's about it. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Good night.